Hey, what's going on, y'all? Brandon out here, Society Fixed. And today we're going to be taking a look at the education system and revamping it in order to fix our health crisis that we have going on right now. The health crisis being the rising obesity, the rising heart disease, and also the prevalence of just diabetes as well. And the other thing that our goal is to fix today is also the poverty. So seeing if we can pull people out of poverty while also improving their health just as an entire society, not any specific group, overall across the board. So to do that, we have to take a look at a few things beforehand. However, quick disclaimer, this is just long talking video. If you're not in favor of that, or if you need visual stimulation, then this is not the video for you. So either put it on like 1.5, 1.75 or 2 times speed and get through it, or just don't watch it. Now, before we go ahead and start taking a look into the economic impacts and everything, the courses that we're going to take a look at are going to be health and personal finance. And we're going to try to design courses around them with tests at the end of them that actually make sense. So a course load that makes sense, and then also testing that makes sense to hopefully give real world examples to help people. That way we're actually churning out good individuals, good members of society, one, healthier and also more knowledgeable in terms of finance. And so talk about the courseworks. We're going to talk about also the people that we need to actually implement this coursework and make it possible. And we're also going to take a look into just the infeasibility of it, because at the end of the day, it's never going to be implemented. And there's going to be a few reasons why. One is probably going to be like the economic impact of these things. 2, just the cost of doing so. And 3, well, we'll probably get into it as we discussed. So right from the get-go, we talked about health already, getting the obesity rates down, getting the diabetes down, heart disease as well. So when we're looking at these things, we're going to pretty much say, let's just implement them in high school. So right from 9th grade all the way up to senior year, you're going to have, and for those of you who are not familiar with the American school system, because I'm not sure who else uses this formatting, but we have 12 school years. And when you get into high school, you have 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade, and then 12th grade, you graduate and move on to university or college or wherever you happen to go to after that. So 9th grade, we start off, and during this time period, we'll take a look at anatomy. So we pretty much spend 2 years building on anatomy. And why is that important? Well, it's important because knowing anatomy and how the body functions and works is going to be part of helping us to actually reduce the amount of obesity, helping us set the foundation for doing so at least. Because if you have a health crisis, or if you know how your body works, you're able to maintain it better, or, in theory at least. And it's a similar thing to a car. So how many people wake up, get in your car? You probably do it now. You wake up, you get in your car, you turn it on. But if someone asked you, knocked on the window, hey, before you leave, quick question. Your engine just started, right? Yeah, of course. Okay, how does the engine work? Wait, what? No one's going to be able to answer that. At least most people are not going to be able to answer how an engine actually works. And it's probably going to be that way for the entire car. How does your brake system work? How does power steering work? There's all these different components of the car that actually are not too difficult, but most people don't know how they work. And what happens is you take your car to a mechanic, the mechanic goes, they take a look at it, they say, hey, this is wrong. And if you're not sure how a car even works in the first place, if you didn't Google it or YouTube it beforehand, you're probably just going to go with what they say because you are unfamiliar with it to begin with. So 1, it's going to create a lot of cost for you in the long run. 2, you're kind of taking someone's word on things. Whether if you have a background knowledge on it, you can kind of infer to your own judgment as whether what they're saying is actually correct. And 3, you're going to have the ability to fix and maintain your own car easier and cheaper if you know how it actually functions and operates. Because what should happen is if you know how it operates, it should leave a level of comfort in you to be able to go out to your car and start changing the oil or brake pads or things of that nature. Very small things, and then gradually move to bigger things if you want to do it. Now, there's a time cost benefit to everything, but still. Now, take a look and apply this to your body. You have your heart, you have your endocrine system, the skeletal system, all these different systems in the body, similar to a car in general. And if you know how it operates or I should say if we know how it operates more, we want to rely on the healthcare system too much to be able to maintain our own bodies. And that's a thought anyways. And this kind of leads me to this will lead us later to why this is unfeasible. One, because it kind of starts cutting doctors out of the picture a little bit, especially if their patients either don't come to them at all, or they come to them way later in life because their patients are healthier, don't feel anything wrong, where they kind of have a background knowledge and they start testing on things. But this is not me saying, hey, don't go to your doctor if you have health issues, just go read a book on anatomy. I'm not saying that at all. However, in this case, we're just rolling with this foundational knowledge. So 9th grade, 10th grade, you're doing 2 years of anatomy, really laying out the human body. And some people could argue that that's probably not needed, maybe a year. However, we're just going to roll with this. So 2 years of anatomy. And at the end of those 2 years, you take time and you actually draw out how the different systems of the body, which sounds fucking nuts. I understand that. But if you're able to draw it from memory, you know the body without a doubt. And it's that way for any system. If you can draw the system, you know the system. So we do our anatomy. And then the third thing we move into is going to be food science or nutrition. And this one's important because, well, pretty much, I don't think I've ever been to a school or had a class where we talked about food science and the macronutrients, micronutrients, the vitamins, minerals, how they work and how they actually affect the body. And so in this class, this period, it kind of starts laying more and building on the foundation that we already have from anatomy by saying, okay, so we know how the systems work within the body. Let's talk about the fuel sources that we use for the body and how those affects everything else going on here. So at this point, you should start talking about fasting, autophagy, and I bring up fasting and autophagy, which if you're not familiar with autophagy, it's literally translates to self-eat. And that's when, if you go through a certain amount of time of fasting, i.e. eating no food at all, still drink water, but you go, I think it's like 36 hours without eating, your body enters the state of autophagy where it starts getting rid of senescent cells. So it starts cleaning up dead cells, repairing other cells, getting rid of folded proteins. So all these things are happening in your body after you've hit the certain window of fasting, pretty much keeping you far younger than if you never fasted at all. And this is important because let's think about this. 2.5 to 3 million years ago, when we originated, just the genus Homo in general, we were not constantly eating. Like, our hunts were not always successful and we had to rely on gathering. And even then, if there wasn't enough food to go around, you might go a day or two without eating. And that is giving the body time to, one, start burning fat as fuel, two, start just cleaning up the body, making sure you are staying in shape. And then also when the time comes and you are able to actually go and start getting food, or if you've been doing this whole time, it's a way of keeping you healthy. So in today's world, what do? It's just, we wake up, you gotta have breakfast, you gotta have breakfast, you gotta have breakfast. Then a few hours later, you gotta have lunch, you gotta have lunch, you gotta have lunch. And then a few hours later again, dinner. And a few hours again, oh, you're eating. Get some chips while you're eating. You're just constantly eating and eating and eating. And that's not the way we've ever done it before. Well, I'd say like 95% of our history has not been spent constantly eating and eating and eating and eating and eating. And you just look at the historical facts of this. I mean, like I think the 1970s or 60s, we were 20 pounds, generally on average 20 pounds less than where we are now in 2021. And it's absolutely insane if you think about how quickly we went through these changes. And to give two examples of this, one, there was a guy, I think he was living in New York at the time, but he spent a whole year just not eating at all. He drank coffee and they gave him just pretty much like a multivitamin. They gave him this multivitamin the entire time. And he lost over, I think, 150 to 170 pounds, maybe even more, to be honest with you. And he didn't eat for a whole year, which is absolutely insane, but it's doable because he has so much fat on him for energy. And he was monitored the whole time. He's completely healthy, no problems whatsoever. You can Google this story and read about it yourselves. Now, on a personal level, when I was 13 years old, I went 8 months, and all I ate was a bowl of soup once a week, and that's literally it for an entire 8 months. And I was obese at the beginning of this. I was around 250 to 260 pounds. At the end of the 8 months, I was 116 pounds, just not eating at all. So eating is not something we have to do on a consistent basis, and we're pretty much abusing the ability, well, the access that we have to food now. So that's why I bring up fasting autophagy and being able to take a look at how nutrition plays a role in the anatomy of things, but also how we can use nutrition better than just simply stuffing our face on a consistent basis. And this is also important too, because how many times do you want to do a specific diet, but you start getting side effects because maybe you're lacking certain supplements? Now, let's take the vegan diet, for example. I've done the vegan diet myself like 2 different times, 6 months apiece each time. So I guess you can say I've been like a whole year a vegan entirely in my life before. And the first time I poorly implemented it. And this is going to be a common thing you like read about and hear about when it comes to the vegan diet, is the lack of omega-3s, the lack of B12, and the lack of, omega-3s, B12, and then also iron. Because one, when some people go into these things, you read about it on so influencers, social media is talking about the vegan diet, or all I eat is this, or all I eat is that, or you quickly YouTube something about the vegan diet, or just someone whispers in your ear about the vegan diet, and so you think, let me just try this. How hard can it be? All I eat is plants. That's simple. So now you go out and you buy some spinach, you buy some kale, some carrots, and you're just eating that stuff, but you're missing out on a bunch of other essential nutrients, vitamins, and minerals. And so that's why building a foundation on top of the anatomy, where we talk about fasting, we talk about autophagy, we talk about all these different vitamins and minerals, how they play a role, macronutrients, micronutrients. Now we're educating everyone on nutrition as well. And so this is going to be a problem too, because if everyone knows more about nutrition and kind of the dangers of it as well, specifically the dangers, then you're probably going to be disrupting industries, billion-dollar industries, something like McDonald's, so all the fast food companies. And again, the healthcare system. So more people are healthy, less people are going to the doctor, because what happens is people will go to the doctor after they screw up their bodies, but not beforehand, because the doctor's not going to fix you because there's nothing to fix. So you go to the doctor after you've done screwed yourself up. Now you don't have to do that anymore. So one, you save money if you have insurance, or if you don't have insurance, you're not paying anything for it whatsoever. And so you're disrupting the healthcare system in that way. So just talking about that's probably one reason that we would never see a sweeping change where nutrition was mandatory in all schools, especially a year of it, or at least to the level that we want it to. So nutrition, we have anatomy for 2 years, nutrition. And then I would say for the last year, senior year, we go into exercise science. But in all actuality, I would say exercise science should probably be 2 years, because for the exercise science courses we want to look at, we want to, one, take all the training modalities that are out there and bring them into the school and have coaches actually teach kids how to train. So calisthenics, powerlifting, bodybuilding, strongman, whatever training modalities are there that are actually really big in that area, you want to be able to bring them into the school and start teaching the proper lifting. And not only teaching lifting and teaching proper form, how to maintain your body and exercises, but teaching about muscle balance, right? So if you're sitting all day, you're going to have weak glutes, you're going to have short hamstrings, you're going to have, a round back, so increased lordosis in the lumbar spine, actually, just a lot of different things going on there that you can keep corrected and maintained with exercise. So being able to teach about these things too, the common traps of modern society, and teach us, and will teach children, at least specifically teens, how to actually maintain their bodies as they begin aging. And the reason that we're bringing in different training modalities is because once people actually start getting into exercise, it's really confusing. If you walk into a gym for the first time and you've never been in there, just erase your mind, think about, hey, I've never been to a gym, I've never seen anything in there. I've heard multiple things about, hey, curls and all these things, but never done it myself. Now you walk into a gym and you see all these machines, all this weight, all these people just running around doing all these different exercises. You're gonna have no clue what to do. And so that's why this is important. Really, the exercise science is the thing that should be bringing it all together, where you learn about, one, how to grow your body, i.e. protein intake, caloric deficits, just balancing out the energy systems, what to expect when you actually go on endurance runs, what to expect if you're going to do like high intensity interval training. That's where we start bringing all these things together. So the anatomy, the food science, the exercise science, and it allows us to touch on like, hey, so you're doing an overhead press, you're pushing the bar overhead, what's happening in your shoulders, what's happening in your triceps, what's happening all over your body, your abdominals, your obliques. And really what happened this past year? A lockdown happened, a bunch of people gained weight, some people called it the COVID-15. And when people gain weight, you hear it all the time as you're going about your day. Yeah, I like put on the COVID-15, I gained weight because of the pandemic. And if you had the background knowledge because you went to school and you learned about anatomy, nutrition, and exercise science, then really there's no reason you should be gaining weight. You know how to exercise without weights. You went through calisthenics. You know how the body works and how it functions. You should be able to eat a healthy diet still. So really, it kind of zeroes out that excuse. And essentially that would be everything that we would do and kind of cover throughout our high school experience in order to actually shell out a functional, healthy individual. Because right now, of course, all you do is just get stuff full of information that you'll probably never see again unless you go to college, in which case you have to remember that stuff just to pass classes and then never see it again. But at least this stuff you can actually use, like exercise, keeping the body healthy, because for the most part, you're probably going to be working for your entire life and you want your body to be able to actually produce and have energy to produce the work you need or work you want, whichever one happens. So people that we'd actually need to make this happen. Well, competent coaches, of course, and coaches, at least with exercise science. And of course, we'd want top of the line, maybe a physical therapist and all these other things, but just for practicality purposes, coaches that are actually trained in exercise science, some kind of certificate, whether it's like NASM when they have group training and all these different things. So you can pretty much think football coaches, but you would want other specific coaches too. So increasing your coaching staff, and instead of just having the football team or the baseball team or whatever team go through these courses, you're going to have the entire student body going through it. And so one, hopefully getting the whole obesity rate down, but two, just more familiar with the body. I mean, better proprioception as well. I mean, think about it, when you're getting older, Alzheimer's, dementia is setting in, you're going to want that proprioception. However, if you never trained your body or really use it to its full capacity, then you won't have it. So we covered exercise science just for the food purposes when it comes to actually teaching about food, the micronutrients, macronutrients. I mean, not too sure, of course, a nutritionist or dietitian would probably be best, but as long as someone's training these things and they know about it, can pass a test. So essentially, when you are going to teach these things, having a test in place, that way whatever teacher is teaching it is actually competent in the subject and they can pass it. Okay, so good. And then we have a lot of teachers that already teach about anatomy. It's just not to the depth that we want to be able to draw out the systems, and that'd be the only difference. So in this case, just going harder on the courses. So that essentially covers the health side of it. The reason I don't think it would ever be implemented again is because, one, let's look at two terms real quick. Lifespan. So lifespan right now in the US, and I believe just in any kind of developed country right now, is actually on the decline. So for us, it was kind of averaging out around 80, and now it's, I think, around 76. And lifespan is just the amount of time the average person is going to live. Health span is another term to be familiar with, and I'm not sure if that is actually specifically the term, but health span is important because let's say you are going to live to 80, but your health span is only to 70. That means on average, after you hit 70 years old, you're going to have crap health for the rest of that time. So the goal here is to increase our health span, increase our lifespan, and hopefully have a less obese, less heart disease ridden and diabetes ridden society. The problem with it all is if people have that kind of foundational knowledge, or they're able to maintain their bodies better, one, there might be less doctor visits, less dentist visits, because less people are eating sweets, so less cavities, less problems with the teeth, less smoking. So able to maintain your body better. You know about the health consequences. It kind of helps keep in your mind and steers your way of thinking and put you on a healthier path as a society, in which case, one, you mess up the doctors, two, you mess up the healthcare system, three, you're kind of messing up insurance as well, life insurance, health insurance. If people are living longer, actually life insurance might not be too bad if people are living longer, but health insurance specifically, and especially all the hospitals that are relying on patients to actually come in, now they have a shift, I can't talk right now, but a sharp decline in patients. All of a sudden, one, people are probably going to be doctors because, hey, there's not that as many patients as before, but well, at least two, on top of this, those doctors are actually still go through the process of becoming when they actually want to be there helping you. But three, you are just disrupting so many industries that I don't think this would ever happen, especially consider big pharma. If less people are on whatever medications they need for diabetes and all those other things, pharmaceutical companies aren't making that much money, so they're definitely not going to allow this to happen. And yeah, overall, it would be phenomenal for our society if people knew about proper exercise and how to properly move their bodies. They actually knew about how their bodies function and worked. And on top of this, knew how to eat properly. But you would just disrupt so many industries, the fast food industry, healthcare, insurance. Let's see. Well, honestly, not that many industries, but still enough to have a huge economic impacts. However, on the flip side of all this, just as Netflix came through and knocked out Blockbuster because Netflix adapted with the times, you could have other industries that spring up to adapt with the times as well. There's a health company or a doctor's office now, I think in the Los Angeles area, called Ford, where they do genetic testing. They do blood work as well. They take a look at all your biomarkers, and they essentially build a preventative plan for you. That way you can start maintaining your body a lot better, and about the health consequences based on your genetics. So maybe it's a specific variant of a gene, and that leaves you predisposed to Alzheimer's. And so now they start working with you to build a plan to prevent Alzheimer's. You have industries like that could spring up. That one, it still would be better for humanity and society, and especially the individual, because now you're maintaining your health a lot more. But two, it's going to put us on a path of better prevention. And right now we're constantly just relying on quick fixes for everything. Quick fix for your health. Hey, go to the doctor, take some medication. Dentists, man, you screwed up your teeth from eating all this sugar. We're going to yank that tooth out, put this tooth in. But now, instead of actually being able to maintain your body and not watch it fall apart as you age, you can be 100 years old picking up your grandkids as opposed to 100 years old in a wheelchair. That's the important part here. That's the big thing we're going for. We'll actually just survive to 100. That's a good goal to start with. Now let's move on to the personal finance side of things. And this is a touchy one because this one for sure would never happen. But 4 years of it, starting in 9th grade, we want to start off with personal finance. And in this one, most students in 9th grade haven't had a job or earned money from an actual job or any other source of income. Some might have had allowances. Some may have went and started a little business of their own, mowing lawns or doing nails or whatever it might be. But for the most part, the majority of students probably haven't worked to earn money in that regard. So you simulate that and you do a whole year of it. So starting off right from the get-go, you're earning money. You are talking about not only earning money, but you're talking about insurance. So actually shopping around for insurance, car insurance, phone insurance. You're budgeting your monthly plan. You're spending, you're shopping around for food the entire time, not actual, but in the class. And this is being simulated to a point to where it mimics a life enough and it's interesting enough to keep the students' attention. And so you're shopping around for life insurance, phone bills, you're budgeting your monthly income, and you're pretty much evaluating how you would actually do in real life. So with that in mind, doing this whole thing after your entire year's worth of school in the 9th grade, at the very end, you do a test, and that test is just to see a quick snapshot of a 10-year period of how you would do maintaining a budget based off of this kind of job. And also throughout this personal finance thing, aside from the budgeting, aside from looking at insurance plans, aside from looking at phones, cars, all these things, maintenance, all these things that pop up. Maybe the teacher pops in there one day and says, hey, everyone, we just had a bad hailstorm come through. All your houses now have hail damage and we need to figure something out here. Essentially, it's like The Sims, but mimics real life a lot more. But at the end of it, you do a quick 10-year, pretty much snapshot window, and you have a 2-hour test where you go through a 10-year period, and you have to, at the end of it, have this X amount of money or more saved up. So in my mind, that would be probably like a good starting point in terms of getting people's thoughts around money and how money works and how to budget and live frugal, and essentially helping people survive the next, once they graduate at least, survive the next 10 years. That way the next 60 or so years that they're living are phenomenal. Now, moving on from that, on our 10th grade, we're going to do real estate, and in 11th grade, we'll do stocks, bonds, ETFs, CDs, things of that nature, crypto. So we'll look at the hard assets that we can have, i.e. real estate. In the 11th grade, we'll be taking a look at the pretty much the more volatile ones, I'll say, so stocks. And as you can see, 10th grade and 11th grade are going to be dedicated to investing. And 10th grade, you're looking at what it's like to buy a house, what it's like to own real estate, whether it be primary residence, or you're actually renting it out, you're covering all the different loans. So you're covering your conventional loan, FHA, VA loans, you're covering your business loans, if you want to go for apartment complexes or just 5 units and up. You cover the whole gamut, what it's like to use insurance, what does insurance cover for real estate, what do different markets hold, or specifically just focus on the market that you're in. So if you're in, like, let's say Missouri, specific city in Missouri, focus on that kind of market there. And what are the houses like? What are the condos like? What are the apartment buildings like? And kind of what to expect as a homeowner. So going through that entire thing, your 10th grade year or 11th grade year, you can switch them either way. But going through that entire thing for your 10th grade year, and at the end of it, so at the end of the test, 2-hour long test again, 10-year simulation. And what happens is you take the money that you made in 9th grade, and that's going to be your down payment on a house in 10th grade. So your 9th grade actually has real life impacts, and you can see the impacts moving into 10th grade based off of where you're starting out. So you have your down payment that you saved up from 9th grade, you're using it in your 10th grade, and now you're buying a house and you're maintaining it. And at the end of it, you do a quick, again, 10-year simulation where you maintain the house for 10 years. And at the end of it, your house should be in still good shape and livable, or maybe you're even renting it out. So it's whatever specific standard you can set there, just something that shows, hey, you're able to buy and maintain a house, and you're able to do this within a 10-year period, or at least maintain it for a 10-year period. Now, the third thing is just stocks, pretty much simulating the real estate thing again. And I'm not getting too much into stocks, but essentially the whole test, it's all going to boil down to the last bit where you're looking at buying stocks and essentially ending up with this X amount of money at the end of it, based off of your understanding of how markets work, how news affects markets as well, how Elon Musk tweeting on Twitter affects markets, all these different things. So 10th grade, 11th grade, essentially learning how to invest and learn how to hold assets. 12th grade is where things really start accumulating together, because we're talking about taxes. A whole year just straight up dedicated to taxes. So you've earned the money, you've used the money to invest, and now you have to pay your taxes. So 12th grade, all taxes, going through what to look for in a CPA, how to hire CPAs, if you're going to do your own taxes, what you should need, all these different forms. And at the end of it, again, just a test to make sure you know how. And this one doesn't have to be a 2-hour long test where you look at a 10-year period, but just simply some kind of test asking the questions. Do you understand what these things are? Do you understand how taxes work, the different tax brackets, how taxes work across different states? All these things. So recapping, 9th grade, you build, you budget, you build up your piggy bank, essentially. 10th grade, you use that piggy bank to buy a house and maintain it or rent it out, one of those two. And coming into 11th grade, you take whatever you have left over, still earning from your job, or from the house that you have, you want to sell the house or whatever, now you're investing in stocks. And then 12th grade, you do taxes. So That is essentially it. Just looking at the people that you probably need for these things. Well, the real estate, I think if you wanted to do it properly, you'd just have an accountant come in and teach the taxes thing. And for the real estate, you'd have investors in your local area come in and teach if they have the time to maybe dedicate themselves to maybe a 3-hour class each day, where they teach 2 different classes in that 3-hour period, and they can come in and teach. And all you got to do is ask them questions and have a state funded or federally funded test to make sure they actually have the knowledge to teach it and not just kind of blowing smoke. And 3, when it comes to the stocks, probably an investor as well, or at least someone who's like a financial planner who can give at least solid advice on how the different stocks work, the cryptos work, and how markets work. Because a financial planner is someone who has to actually be qualified in it. They typically hold degrees, I believe. Don't quote me on that. So that would be an individual that you'd want to have there for your 11th grade year when you're talking about stocks. And then 9th grade, really anybody can do 9th grade, just ensure that they can pass the test and have about insurance, but we all live it as adults. It's just now you're actually teaching young students about these things. So why do I not think this would ever work and happen? Because you can't have an economy, especially one as large as the US is, run by, not run, but have the participants of the economy be a bunch of frugal buttholes that don't want to spend money because they want to buy a house instead. So yeah, I don't see that working, honestly. The economy benefits from poverty, unfortunately. I believe anyways, because typically, and this is going to be weird to say, but the whole thing with the stimulus checks that happened recently was that certain people were getting stimulus checks that people believe they didn't need them because they were just going to take that money, save it, and invest it, as opposed to those who are in poverty are actually probably going to take that and actually buy things with it, whether it's things they need or dumb things like a new phone. But still, yeah, the economy would just completely tank. Another thing that separate from the economy is just the fact that if you have your kid coming up to you and teaching you about finances, when you are kind of sitting there struggling yourself, it'd probably put a bitter taste in your mouth. But that problem would resolve itself over like 8 or 9 years as it becomes normal. And also on top of this, the kids or the parents that are having, or the people having kids just in general, kind of know what to expect at that point because they already know the changes. Whereas opposed to first year students going through this process, their parents will probably be super frustrated with that. Man, and I'm saying a lot, so I apologize, but that is all the things I can think of, really. I mean, just the economic impact that it'll have, a bunch of frugal people. I mean, again, you disrupt so many different markets, and it would be phenomenal. It'd be wild, absolutely crazy, and I would love it, but it would never happen. And let's see, essentially that's it. That's how I believe using the education system, we could start solving obesity, heart disease, diabetes, and poverty as well. And in this case, everyone would probably be just completely in poverty because we'd crash the economy. But hey, that is it. If you liked the video, comment, suggestions, or maybe your school's already doing something like this, let us know. Or you went through classes, if you're not in school, let us know. And again, this is not applying to college. This should be already out in high school. Like after we leave high school, we should have functioning citizens who can actually maintain themselves and not just struggle throughout life. Because right now all we do is just build kids up and fill them with knowledge just to go on and pass more classes in college, just then go on and finally start taking classes that apply to their degrees. It's ridiculous. It's crazy. It's a lot. So take care, y'all. Signing out.